into Abu Dhabi. What wet weather we do have is a little further north, making its way across central parts of Iraq, eventually pushing across into Iran. A little bit of wet weather also affecting South Asia at the moment. There will be some, a wintry mix up towards the far north, some rain, sleet and snow over the higher ground. Come down into Orissa, northern parts of Andhra Pradesh, you could see some showers. I think we may well see some showers into southern parts of Sri Lanka. And I think for the cricket, well, here, that could come into play over the next day or two. But elsewhere, I think Chennai, fine and dry for the game taking place here through the course of Sunday. Come down into South Africa, and of course, all eyes across a good part of southern Africa, particularly into Madagascar, where we have what remains of Tropical Cyclone Bingiza. More flooding rains to come for a good part of Madagascar, and some particularly wet weather once again coming into northern parts and also affecting Mozambique and Tanzania. Heavy showers continue through the Amazon basin, with more flooding rains for southeastern Brazil.
He's taken stolen goods and he's now dumping them onto the world without any sort of consideration for consequences.
From people making the news.
If the North will be saved a lot of trouble, I think it is important that they should come together.
To those it affects.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines.
Most South Koreans are not interested in reunification.
Is the inside story. At this time on Al Jazeera.
Top stories for you here on Al Jazeera. Witnesses have been talking about a massacre by government security forces in the Libyan city of Benghazi. Al Jazeera has also been told demonstrators in the capital, Tripoli, have been attacked. In Bahrain, talks expected to get underway between protesters and the country's rulers. That move comes after demonstrators gathered again at the Pearl Roundabout in the capital, Manama, after riot police pulled out. A national strike's now been called for Sunday. And protests also being planned in Morocco. There's an online campaign, including this video, expected to bring thousands onto the streets. Demonstrators want the king to dissolve parliament and implement reforms. Opposition groups also planning to hold rallies in Iran. Now, the Egyptian Stock Exchange will remain shut on Sunday, marking 3 weeks of closure due to the country's political upheaval. But Egyptian officials say emergency laws will be lifted within 6 months, and proposals to amend the constitution are almost ready. Those are among the demands of the pro-democracy campaigners who ousted President Mubarak more than a week ago. Well, in the run-up to that uprising, young activists used social networking sites, specifically Facebook, to call for the popular revolt against Mubarak's government. Now, the country's military rulers are turning to the same tool, but to promote their own cause. From Cairo, Rawi Rage has more.
They've been communicating with people on the streets, and now they've turned to the internet to win hearts and minds. Egypt's Supreme Military Council has set up its own Facebook page, the same tool young activists used to organize the revolution.
We have set up this page on the orders of the head of the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces, because the Council believes that fruitful cooperation with Egypt's honourable sons in the coming period will lead to stability and security in our beloved Egypt.
In under 48 hours, the page attracted more than 250,000 supporters, with thousands of comments on the statements posted by the council, ranging from praise for the army to echoing protesters' demands about the way forward. The military has been exerting efforts to appear open through televised communiques, but some experts have described this as old-fashioned 1960s-era communication style.
What Facebook does offer is the creation of a space where people can discuss these things. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a general, obviously, answering everyone's questions on Facebook. And I think for the army, it allows them to get a taste of what public opinion is concerned about, but also kind of channel the discussion. We need to get people to get back to work. We can't threaten the economy anymore. We will address your grievances, but be patient.
One of the more popular statements on the site announces the army will not be punishing an officer who was shown on television joining the uprising. Caught in the uncomfortable position of having to run the country, the new rulers are already making decisions that are proving unpopular. including calling for an end to strikes and street protests. Their latest PR move, some say, perhaps an attempt to retain the support they'd had for not cracking down on the anti-Mubarak movement. AlJazeera, Cairo.
Afghan medical officials say at least 40 people are now known to have been killed in Saturday's suicide attack. The Taliban says one of its bombers blew himself up at the Kabul bank in Jalalabad. 73 more people are injured. The attacker targeting intelligence and security staff collecting their salaries. Early results from Uganda's presidential polls suggest the incumbent, Yoweri Museveni, is headed for a big win. Provisional results from nearly all polling stations show he's got about 68% of the vote. Victory would extend his 25-year rule by another 5 years. The Somali government's confirmed 4 Americans who went missing on Friday have been kidnapped by pirates. The quartet was sailing on a private yacht off the coast of Oman when the ship was hijacked.
As a government, we confirm that 4 Americans were kidnapped by Somali pirates. We condemn this action. It is unacceptable. So the Somali government will try all it can to get information regarding this incident. We request the international community help stem the increasing piracy in Somalia.
Now, a survey by South Africa's Medical Research Council has found 1 in 4 men admit to having committed rape. The problem's partly blamed on a culture that seems to accept sexual violence. But as Jonah Hull reports, the old apartheid system also has a lot to answer for.
He was beating her, probably raping her as well.
Even now, I'm still shaking, because since I was born, I never heard kind of sound which was produced by that girl.
South Africa is sometimes dubbed the rape capital of the world. Statistically, a woman is more likely to be raped here than learn to read. Dumisani Rebombo was 15 when he and 2 others gang raped a female pupil at school. A shy boy at the time, Dumisani says he gave in to relentless peer pressure.
These guys have a request and they're thinking you should prove yourself to be a boy just like us. About this girl who thinks she's clever than any other girl in this village because she wouldn't want to date any of them. So, as these boys of the neighborhood, we decided to teach her a lesson. And the lesson is that she would be raped by some of us.
20 years later, Dumisani met his victim and apologized. All she did was cry, he says. Today, he's a gender relations counsellor, running educational workshops, trying to bridge South Africa's gaping sexual divide.
Men are not all monsters, actually. And it's wrong to even go around with the message that way. In fact, in South Africa, we're told that out of 6, only 1 is bad. But the 5 are silent. So if we try and get the 5 to speak up, the better.
Why is rape so rife? Well, causal factors include a history of violence and societal decay thanks to 50 years of apartheid. But there's also poverty, alcohol abuse, and inadequate policing.